"You'll be fine going to the hospital alone, right?" Those words still echo in my mind. I swear, I could have sent him straight to hell that day. My name is Rachel, and I'm currently 9 months pregnant. It's my first time giving birth, so while anxiety courses through my veins daily, I feel truly blessed about welcoming a new member into our family. My husband, Derek, works as an accountant at a corporate firm in downtown Portland. He has weekends off, but here's the thing, he doesn't offer much support around the house or help with shopping. Why? Because Derek spends almost every single weekend at his parents' house in Beaverton, just 30 minutes away. Derek has this incredibly deep bond with his parents. Some might call it sweet, I call it suffocating. Since their home is nearby, he drives over there almost every Saturday and Sunday without any specific reason. Just because. Meanwhile, I'm home alone, 9 months pregnant, managing everything by myself. Since becoming pregnant, I've been extremely cautious about lifting heavy objects. For instance, when I need to buy heavy items like a 20-pound bag of rice or cases of bottled water, I have to rely on understanding friends who often help out. My neighbor Jessica has been a lifesaver, honestly. Let me walk you through my daily routine. I wake up at 6 in the morning, preparing breakfast for Derek, usually scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, coffee, and fresh orange juice. I see him off to work with a packed lunch at 7:30. Afterward, I tackle the cleaning and laundry, then head out for any necessary shopping around 10. Once I return home around noon, I start prepping ingredients for dinner. Only after finishing all these tasks, usually around 2 in the afternoon, can I finally have some relaxation time. Since taking maternity leave from my job as a graphic designer, I've taken up a new hobby, blogging. Every single day, I write a diary entry accompanied by photos I take throughout the day. Pictures of meals I've prepared, the brilliant blue sky over Mount Hood, flowers blooming in our small garden, the changing leaves in autumn. Many friends and acquaintances leave encouraging comments, and these moments of journaling have become small daily joys for me. These little interactions remind me that I'm not completely invisible. One evening in late September, as I was preparing dinner, Derek returned home as usual around 6:15. He carelessly tossed his leather messenger bag and suit jacket onto our cream-colored sofa, and I immediately tidied them up, hanging the jacket on the coat hanger by the entrance. "Welcome back," I said warmly. "I made hamburgers for dinner tonight, with those brioche buns you like and homemade special sauce." "I'm going to take a shower," he responded curtly, barely making eye contact. Without another word, he headed straight for the bathroom. 3 years have passed since we got married at that beautiful venue overlooking the Columbia River Gorge, and there has been so little kindness or consideration from him. I occasionally wonder if this is truly what a marital relationship should be like. Is this what forever looks like? But I've resigned myself to it, pushing down my disappointment day after day. When Derek returned 20 minutes later in his pajamas, hair still damp, I handed him a cold glass of iced tea. "Where's the beer?" he asked, glancing toward our refrigerator with an annoyed expression. "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to buy it today. I'll get some tomorrow morning," I replied apologetically. "Seriously, go to the convenience store now." His demeanor changed immediately, and he spoke with evident anger flashing in his eyes. I felt irritation rising in my chest. Why was he asking his 9 months pregnant wife to do this at 8 o'clock at night? "If you want it so badly, why don't you go get it yourself?" "It's hard for me to move around with this big belly, Derek. The baby's been pressing on my bladder all day, and my back is killing me." At that moment, he became even angrier and started shouting, his face turning red. "You're the one who forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment. My mother always said it's important to keep moving for the sake of health. You're becoming lazy, Rachel." Knowing that Derek doesn't calm down easily when he's angry, I've learned this the hard way over 3 years, I reluctantly decided to go to the convenience store. I grabbed my purse, slipped on my shoes, and walked out into the cool Portland evening. The 7-Eleven was only 3 blocks away, thankfully. Once I arrived, I bumped into Jessica, my neighbor from 2 houses down. "Oh, Jessica, good evening," I said, genuinely happy to see a friendly face. "Good evening, Rachel. Did you forget to buy something too?" Jessica asked cheerfully, holding a basket with pasta sauce and garlic bread. I ran out of marinara sauce, so I came here quickly, she continued. Jessica's cheerful voice slightly lifted my spirits in that moment. My husband really wanted beer, and he told me to come buy it, I explained, feeling embarrassed. Wait, why didn't he just go himself? You're literally about to give birth any day now. Jessica looked genuinely shocked. That's exactly what I said, but it didn't get through to him, I sighed deeply. Oh, Rachel, that's rough. You know, if you ever need anything, just text me, okay? I mean it. After walking together for a bit, discussing her daughter's upcoming soccer tournament, Jessica and I parted ways at the crossroad near Maple Street. When I returned home 15 minutes later, Derek was lounging on the sofa watching a football game, having not even cleaned up after dinner. The dirty dishes sat on the table, ketchup congealing on the plates. Why did it take you so long? What were you dawdling around for? Give me the beer. Derek's disgruntled voice and his insensitive remarks made my heart ache with a familiar pain. However, I handed him the six-pack of Budweiser without a word and began cleaning up after the meal, scraping food into the trash, loading the dishwasher, wiping down the counters. How could he say such things to me, especially when I'm pregnant with his child? I felt the urge to retort, to scream at him, but I didn't want another shouting match that would leave me crying in the bedroom, so I remained silent. My mother always taught me to pick my battles. Afterward, I had my cold dinner alone at the kitchen counter, took a relaxing bath with lavender bath salts, and headed to the bedroom around 10:30. The next morning, Derek acted as if nothing had happened. He seems to be the type to forget everything after a good night's sleep, like his brain just resets. However, I couldn't forget his words from the previous night, and I consciously avoided making eye contact with him during breakfast. Why are you making that sour face so early in the morning? Don't take it out on me. I'm heading to work now, so be a bit more considerate, would you? You know the importance of showing appreciation, right? Due to what he said, I was filled with the urge to retort. That applies to you, doesn't it? But out of shock and disbelief at his complete lack of self-awareness, all I could do was sigh deeply and see him off at the door. Be careful driving, I said automatically. I won't be home for dinner tonight, see you. Without any further explanation, Derek left in a hurry, his BMW pulling out of our driveway at 7:45 sharp. After seeing him off, I took care of household chores as usual, vacuuming, dusting, folding the laundry, watering the garden. Then I went shopping at Trader Joe's, picking up groceries for the week. However, since Derek mentioned he wouldn't be having dinner, I decided to prepare something simple just for myself, maybe a Caesar salad and some grilled chicken. Then, as I was about to start my meal alone in the evening around 7 o'clock, I heard Derek's unexpected return and rushed to the entrance, confused. I'm back, he announced. Thanks for your hard work, but you said you didn't need dinner today, right? I asked, bewildered. Yeah, but my work dinner got canceled at the last minute. I'm starving. You have something to eat, right? Well, I only prepared a simple meal for myself today, just a salad and... Upon hearing this, Derek's face contorted with anger, his jaw clenching. Didn't you even consider the possibility I might come back? This is unbelievable. Saying that, he moved to the dining table, and upon seeing the dinner I had prepared, a modest Caesar salad with grilled chicken breast, his mood worsened dramatically. What do you call this? A meal? I seriously question if you're properly doing your duties as a housewife. Don't waste the money I'm working hard to earn. I slave away at that office 60 hours a week, and this is what I come home to. I quickly prepared something light for myself since you said, please don't get mad like this, Derek, I pleaded, feeling my throat tighten. Maybe you should learn proper cooking from my mom. Honestly, I've always found your cooking lacking. She makes pot roast, lasagna, homemade pies, real food. Again, he always compares me to his mother, doesn't he? Doesn't he realize how deeply hurtful these comparisons can be? His mother, Patricia, who has nothing but free time and judges everything I do. I can't eat this rabbit food. Go buy something real, a burger, pizza, I don't care. Hearing this, my heart sank further into my chest. What does he think of me? It's already past 7 at night and I've taken a bath. I'm exhausted. Can't you go buy it yourself? I'm tired, Derek. I've been on my feet all day. Forget it, you forgot to buy beer yesterday, didn't prepare proper dinner today. It's so frustrating. I'm going back to my parents' place where at least someone appreciates me. Derek grabbed his keys and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that a framed photo on the wall rattled. Left alone in the house, I strangely felt a sense of relief wash over me, like a weight lifting from my shoulders. The silence was actually peaceful. The next morning at 8:30, as I expected, I received an angry phone call from Derek's mother, Patricia. "Rachel, how can you not serve Derek a proper meal? This feels like neglect, like you don't even care about your husband. What kind of wife behaves this way?" I explained what happened yesterday, trying to keep my voice steady. "Patricia, he told me he wouldn't be home for dinner, so I." But she wasn't accepting it, cutting me off mid-sentence. "A good wife always prepares extra food just in case. You should have anticipated his needs." I apologized just to end the conversation and hung up, feeling my blood pressure rising. My doctor had warned me about stress. After the call, my mood absolutely plummeted. Since Derek wasn't home, I decided to have a leisurely late brunch around 11 French toast with berries and whipped cream, something I never make when he's around because he calls it too fancy. However, the thought of Derek coming back tonight weighed heavily on my mind like a dark cloud. Considering yesterday's events, I decided to make tonight's dinner absolutely special, something he couldn't possibly criticize. I drove to Whole Foods and shopped with more care than usual, picking out premium ingredients: grass-fed ribeye steaks, fresh asparagus, baby potatoes, ingredients for homemade chocolate cake. I added Derek's favorite craft IPA beer to the cart, making sure to get a six-pack. I was determined to prepare a dinner that would earn Derek's praise, that would make him see me as a good wife again. I shortened my blog update time significantly, skipping my usual detailed post to allocate more time to cooking. I spent 3 hours in the kitchen, preparing everything from scratch. After dedicating all that time and effort, the table was set beautifully as if it was our anniversary or a special holiday. Candlelight, cloth napkins, the good china we received as wedding gifts. Looking at it, I felt a genuine sense of accomplishment and couldn't help but praise myself quietly. With this, he should definitely be satisfied. He has to be. I waited patiently in the dining room for Derek to come home, checking my phone periodically. But as time passed, 6 o'clock, then 7, then 8, there was no sign of him. I tried contacting him several times via text and calls, but there was no response. My worry grew as the clock continued to tick relentlessly. 1 hour, then 2 hours passed, and I began to get genuinely anxious. The steaks were getting cold, the asparagus losing its vibrant color. Did he possibly go to his parents' house in Beaverton? Thinking this, I called Derek's parents to check, my hands trembling slightly. "Hello, Patricia, is Derek there by any chance?" "No, dear, he hasn't come here. Is everything all right?" I tried calling Derek multiple times after that, but still there was no response. As midnight approached, just when I was seriously considering contacting the Portland Police Bureau, a staggering Derek returned home. He seemed clearly drunk, reeking of whiskey and cigarettes. "I'm home's hiccup." I rushed to the entrance in concern and found Derek leaning heavily against the doorframe, barely able to stand upright. "What happened? Are you okay? Where have you been?" I asked, reaching out to help him. Hearing my voice, he responded with sudden anger, pushing my hand away roughly. "Too loud, go away, don't touch me." He then staggered toward the dining room, his footsteps uneven. When I tried to support his arm to prevent him from falling, he forcefully shook off my hand. "Don't come near me with that ugly, swollen face, to think you're supposed to be my wife." In his drunken state, he spat out those venomous words, and then just collapsed right there on our hardwood floor, sprawling like a fallen tree. Those words cut deeper than anything he'd said before. Why? Why can't he consider another person's feelings, especially the feelings of the woman carrying his child? His remarks hurt me so profoundly that I was filled with the crushing thought, maybe he no longer sees me as family. Maybe he never really did. Tears welled up in my eyes and streamed down my cheeks. I put so much effort into cooking that elaborate meal. It was all for nothing, all of it. With that devastating thought, I covered the untouched food, put it in the refrigerator, and had my dinner alone at midnight, crying silently as I ate cold steak and asparagus. The loneliness felt suffocating. The next morning, Derek woke up around 10 as if nothing had happened, groaning loudly. My head is killing me. I guess I drank way too much last night. But why did you leave me lying in the hallway? That's pretty cruel, Rachel. You chose to lie down there, Derek. It's not my fault. I tried to help you and you pushed me away. Aren't you my wife? At least take care of me when I'm drunk. That's literally your job. Derek's words made me wonder why he always immediately blames me for everything. Why is it always my fault? If you weren't going to eat at home, you could have at least let me know. I prepared such a nice meal and I called you multiple times. Why didn't you answer? Then Derek replied sullenly, avoiding my eyes. My work dinner from the day before got rescheduled to yesterday. Do I have to report every single thing to you? Besides, you know how hard it is to pick up the phone during a business gathering. Think about my situation for once instead of being so self-centered. With every word Derek said, my heart grew colder and colder, like ice forming over a lake. My expectations of him diminished with each passing moment. Maybe that's better, I thought. That way I won't feel hurt or disappointed anymore. If I expect nothing, I can't be let down. This thought lingered painfully in my mind. I'm taking a break and going back to my parents' place tomorrow, Derek announced casually while making coffee. Being with you lately feels unpleasant and honestly boring. You're no fun anymore. Seeing Derek's attitude of constantly looking down on me, treating me with such open contempt, made me increasingly consider the option of divorce. The word that I'd been avoiding even thinking about suddenly seemed not just possible, but necessary. Our baby is due any day now, and my heart races with anticipation every time I feel a strong kick. Even though I've heard countless stories about the intense pains of labor from friends who have already given birth, my excitement to meet the new life growing inside me completely overshadows those concerns. The neighbors often encourage me with kind words like, "It's just a little while longer, honey," which genuinely brightens my mood during these difficult final weeks. Hey, want to go on a family trip soon? After Derek returned home one evening in early October, he made this surprising suggestion out of nowhere. Really? A trip? I was genuinely shocked. We hadn't gone on a trip together in over a year. Well, I'm talking about a family trip. My mom and dad want to join us. We were thinking maybe the Oregon coast, staying at that resort in Cannon Beach. I was completely taken aback. Why would his parents make such a proposal now, of all times? Tensions clearly exist between me and Derek's parents. Whenever there's any issue concerning Derek, they consistently tend to blame me automatically, like that phone call incident about the dinner. They always take his side without even hearing my perspective. However, the sudden idea of a trip left me deeply doubtful and concerned. I'm about to give birth any day now, Derek. Traveling a long distance to the coast might be genuinely risky for the baby and me. My doctor said I should stay close to the hospital. Derek replied dismissively, waving his hand. How many times do I have to tell you this? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick. My parents are thoughtfully inviting us on this nice trip, and you're being difficult. My mom carried me and my sister to term and never complained once. But what if something happens while we're an hour and a half away from my hospital? What if I go into labor? It'll be fine. Everything's already decided. We'll go for 2 nights and 3 days next week. My mom already made reservations at the resort. What? Next week is literally my due date. That's more than a bit concerning, that's. Just do as you're told and prepare for the trip. End of discussion. Derek just expressed his opinion in that authoritative tone, and then left the room, closing the door firmly behind him. I'm in real trouble now, I thought to myself, anxiety creeping through every part of my body. The next day, I sought advice from my close friend Amanda, who lives across town. We met for coffee at a Starbucks, and I explained the entire situation to her, including Derek's insistence and his parents' involvement. She looked genuinely concerned, her expression darkening. That's absolutely too much, Rachel. You shouldn't go. What if you go into labor at the coast? That's dangerous. While I was contemplating how to firmly decline the offer and stand my ground, the day of the trip suddenly arrived. It came faster than I expected, and I felt completely unprepared. Actually, I'm not feeling well today at all, I said that morning, touching my stomach. I'm worried about the baby. I really think I should rest at home and stay close to the hospital. I tried to use that as a legitimate excuse, but Derek didn't seem convinced at all, rolling his eyes. Anyway, you can just rest in the car during the drive and you'll be fine, right? Come on, stop complaining. Bring your luggage, we're heading to my parents' house first, so hurry up. They're expecting us. As Derek was loading our luggage into the trunk of his BMW, I was genuinely worried and asked one more time, Derek, is this really okay? I have a bad feeling about this. After loading our suitcases into the car and reluctantly sitting in the passenger seat, I suddenly felt unexpected warmth at my feet. Looking down in confusion, I noticed water spreading around my shoes, soaking into the car mat. Oh my God. My water just broke. Derek, I immediately informed him, my voice rising in panic. I think my water just broke. Please take me to Providence Portland Medical Center quickly. We need to go right now. Taken completely aback by the situation, Derek exclaimed loudly, Are you serious, right now? Yes, I'm completely serious. We need to go to the hospital immediately. The baby is coming. This is really happening. While trying to clean up the amniotic fluid with napkins from the glove compartment, desperately trying to stop it from ruining his car interior, Derek suddenly did something I couldn't believe. He opened the passenger door from his side. Derek, what are you doing? We need to go to the hospital, I said, completely confused. Get out, you're going to completely ruin my car's interior. This is leather. I was in complete and utter shock, unable to process what was happening. What are you saying? Derek, I'm in labor. I said get out, I need to protect my car. Do you know how much it costs to get this detailed? Then Derek actually forcibly pulled me out of the car. In this absolutely unbelievable situation, as I stood there on our driveway in shock, contractions beginning, Derek said something that would change everything. I can't believe this timing. We were supposed to be on a nice family trip with my parents. They're going to be so disappointed. Just go to the hospital by yourself. Call an Uber or something. I was too shocked to form words as I called out to him, Derek, wait. How can you possibly leave me here like this? I'm having your baby. But he actually drove away, his BMW disappearing down our tree-lined street, leaving me standing there alone. Feeling completely overwhelmed and terrified, I quickly dialed 911 for an ambulance, my hands shaking so badly I could barely press the numbers. Just then, someone came running from across the street. Rachel, oh my God, are you okay? It was Jessica, looking deeply concerned, still in her gardening gloves. She had apparently witnessed the entire shocking scene from her front yard. Jessica immediately recognized my predicament and sprang into action. She called a specialized medical transport service, staying by my side and comforting me throughout, holding my hand tightly. Her kindness and compassion in that moment brought tears streaming down my face. I don't know what I would have done without her. Soon after, I safely arrived at Providence Portland Medical Center, thanks to Jessica's quick thinking and help. On the way there in the medical transport vehicle, she held my hand firmly and kept cheering me up, telling me I was strong and that everything would be okay. She stayed by my side until I was transferred to my room in the labor and delivery unit. While being transferred to the hospital bed, I made a silent, firm vow to myself, I will make him pay for this. I will make sure Derek faces consequences for what he's done. Even as labor pains grew stronger and more frequent, Jessica kept holding my hand, providing comfort. Furthermore, she contacted my parents, who live in Seattle, and they immediately drove the 3 hours to Portland. When they arrived at the hospital, they looked deeply concerned and frightened, my mother's eyes red from crying during the drive. Jessica whispered to them in the hallway, There's something important I need to discuss with you both. The three of them then left my room to talk privately, their voices low and serious. As the labor pains intensified to an almost unbearable level, my smartphone vibrated from the corner of the room where my belongings were stored. Who is it? I asked weakly between contractions. My parents returned to the room and responded with barely concealed disgust, It's Derek. They both looked absolutely displeased, their faces showing anger I rarely saw from them. But I decided to take the call anyway, wanting to hear what possible excuse he could have. As soon as I answered, I heard a panicky Derek on the other end. Rachel, help me, you need to come home. My parents are furious, everything's falling apart. However, I was in absolutely no state or mood to converse with him about his problems while I was literally in labor. I promptly ended the call without saying a single word. Despite my parents turning off my phone immediately after that, Derek continued to send message after message. As labor intensified over the next several hours, I was finally moved to the delivery room. After enduring excruciating pain for what felt like an eternity, I finally heard my baby's first cries. The sound was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Utterly exhausted, I saw my parents and Jessica standing there with warm, tearful smiles on their faces. Relieved and overwhelmed, I closed my eyes and rested. When I woke up after a few hours of much-needed sleep, I found myself lying in a recovery room. Rubbing my tired eyes, I noticed my parents sitting in chairs next to my bed, their faces still filled with concern. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" My mother asked gently, reaching for my hand. Still feeling the heavy weight of exhaustion throughout my entire body, I couldn't quite muster the energy to sit up. My father looked teary-eyed and my mother consoled him softly, saying, "The postpartum period can be so exhausting. She needs rest." Witnessing this heartwarming scene, despite everything, a small smile formed on my face. "How's the baby?" I inquired anxiously. My parents informed me that my baby girl was undergoing some routine tests, but would be brought back to the room very soon. However, I noticed Jessica wasn't present in the room. Responding to my unspoken question, my mother remarked, "Jessica left a little while ago. She wanted to let you rest, but she'll visit again tomorrow." Thinking about how drastically different things might have turned out had Jessica not been there at that critical moment, a deep feeling of gratitude settled over me like a warm blanket. I made a sincere promise with my parents that after being discharged, I would visit Jessica properly to express my profound gratitude. Turning on my smartphone to inform friends about the birth, I was met with an absolutely overwhelming number of missed calls and text messages. The notification count was staggering over 100. Most of them were from Derek. The sheer number left me momentarily stunned, but I felt absolutely no hope or expectation from his calls anymore. Those feelings had died, so I closed the notifications without hesitation and began texting my close friends the good news instead. One of my best friends, Amanda, visited the hospital room later that afternoon to congratulate me on the birth. As she rejoiced and extended her genuine wishes, holding the flowers and gift basket she'd brought, I opened up about the recent incidents with Derek, everything from the beer incident to being abandoned during labor. After hearing the complete story, she expressed both shock and genuine anger, her face flushing. Half jokingly, she said she'd like to punch him in the face, but she also emphasized that my health and rest were absolutely paramount right now. She chatted with me for a while longer, making me laugh with funny stories, and then left so I could rest. My parents, already thoroughly briefed by Jessica about the whole episode in detail, asked seriously, "Rachel, honey, what are you planning to do next?" About Derek. I shared my thoughts about my relationship with Derek and the conclusion I'd reached. "I'm considering divorce. I've actually already decided. I can't stay married to someone who would do this." They immediately respected my decision and provided their full support, both emotionally and financially. "We're behind you 100%. You and the baby will always have a home with us." Upon my discharge in a few days, I planned to stay at my parents' house in Seattle, where they had already prepared a room for me and the nursery. Meanwhile, Derek apparently visited the hospital multiple times, but I had specifically informed the hospital staff that I didn't wish to see him under any circumstances. Following my wishes, he wasn't allowed past the reception desk in the maternity ward. The next day, Jessica came to my hospital room in the afternoon, holding a beautiful fruit basket filled with strawberries, grapes, and oranges. "Jessica, you came," I exclaimed with genuine delight. "You seem to be recovering well, but remember not to overexert yourself. Postpartum fatigue can be quite profound and sneak up on you," she advised warmly. Feeling comforted by Jessica's words and presence, I sighed with relief, accepting the fruit basket from her. "Jessica, Thank you so much for helping me that day. I honestly don't know what would have happened if you weren't there. You probably saved my life and my baby's life. I expressed my deep, heartfelt gratitude, bowing my head. Jessica gently laughed, waving her hand dismissively. What's most important is that both you and your beautiful baby are healthy. That's all that matters. I just want to help a friend in need. Regardless, I'm forever grateful. Once things settle down and I'm feeling better, I'll come over with the baby to thank you properly. Jessica laughed warmly in response, her eyes crinkling. You know, I've talked to my husband about everything that happened. He seemed quite furious, actually. I haven't seen him that angry in years. From her words, I could somewhat guess what Derek's situation might be like, but I didn't fully understand yet. Jessica, I'm truly sorry for dragging you into this complicated mess. You didn't ask for any of this. Don't worry at all, Jessica said, then her tone shifted slightly. Remember who you should really thank for being able to have the life you have now. At that moment, I heard an unexpectedly stern tone in Jessica's voice for the first time since I'd known her. Jessica was actually the wife of the CEO at the company where Derek worked, Cascade Financial Solutions. When we first moved to this residential neighborhood in Northwest Portland 3 years ago, I had absolutely no idea about this fact. However, as we frequently encountered each other at the local Whole Foods, New Seasons Market, and occasionally at the 7-Eleven, we gradually became closer. We even began to enjoy coffee together at local cafes, and during these relaxed sessions, I learned about the nature of her husband's position. On the other hand, Derek was completely unaware of this background information. This was because he never even accompanied me for our initial neighborhood greetings when we moved in. He'd been too busy, as usual. He also didn't prefer interacting with neighbors, dismissing it as suburban nonsense. Jessica had previously told me gently, with a kind smile, I don't want to cause any unnecessary trouble or awkwardness, so please don't tell Derek about my husband's position at his company, okay? And I had respected that request completely, never mentioning it once. Knowing that I was pregnant and still being forced to endure Derek's unreasonable behavior, Jessica had several times gently suggested, should I talk to my husband about this situation? He doesn't tolerate employees who mistreat their families. However, I had always declined, not wanting to trouble her or cause problems for Derek at work, despite everything. But with this recent incident, being abandoned during labor, perhaps even Jessica's patience reached its limit. That's why Derek kept calling so frantically, I realized aloud. Rachel, I really can't thank you enough for being such a wonderful friend, Jessica said warmly. Jessica's strong words and loyalty made me realize how incredibly fortunate I was to have someone who would go to such lengths for me. I couldn't help but tear up, overwhelmed by emotion and gratitude. Seeing my reaction, Jessica once again gave me that warm, genuine smile I'd come to treasure. Lisa, you're a dear friend to me. I can't just stand by and watch when something like this happens to someone I care about. Our conversation continued, filled with heartfelt smiles and shared understanding. However, Derek's messages and calls didn't stop. Despite the constant barrage of notifications lighting up my phone, I consciously ignored every single one. Thinking about the divorce made my mind feel clearer than it had in years. All I wanted now was to think about how to build a good life with my baby daughter. As I was preparing to leave the hospital a few days later, Amanda visited my room one more time, handing me her smartphone with an excited expression. Rachel, I want you to see this, it's everywhere. Displayed on her phone was a post that had become a major viral topic on multiple social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What is this about? I asked, confused, scrolling through the comments. She informed me that she had posted about Derek's recent actions on social media, specifically on her parenting blog that had a significant following. Amanda had considerable influence on social media, with over 50,000 followers across platforms. One day, she received a reply to one of her posts from a follower. That follower had, by pure chance, captured a video of the exact scene where I was yelled at by Derek after being forced out of the car while in labor. The follower, wanting to protect my privacy, had carefully blurred my face in the video. With Amanda's permission, that follower shared it online with the caption, "Husband forces pregnant wife in labor out of car because he's worried about leather seats." The video spread like absolute wildfire. Within 48 hours, it had millions of views. As a result, people online identified Derek personally and even identified Cascade Financial Solutions, his company. Currently, Derek seemed to be under an absolute barrage of criticism online. The comments were brutal and unforgiving. What kind of monster does this to his pregnant wife? This man doesn't deserve to be a father. Someone should force him out of a car and see how he likes it. I hope his company fires him. This is disgusting behavior. The video had been shared tens of thousands of times, and people were calling for real-world consequences. "What? I had no idea it had escalated to this level," I exclaimed, genuinely shocked at the scope of it all. Amanda smiled gently, a hint of satisfaction in her expression. "Well, they brought it upon themselves, didn't they? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, as they say." Derek's actions and the consequences he was now facing were all direct results of choices he made. Furthermore, when one of Derek's coworkers and supposed friends confronted him about the incident, trying to give him a chance to explain, Derek reportedly made things infinitely worse by excusing himself. "I had a prior travel commitment with my parents that day, so I had no choice. Family obligations, you know." Because of that statement, not only Derek, but also his parents, Patricia and Robert, began to face intense criticism online. People were appalled that parents would prioritize a vacation over their grandchild being born. The story spread rapidly, even in the vicinity of Beaverton, where my in-laws lived. There seemed to be various posts and discussions related to Derek's parents circulating on neighborhood Facebook groups and local social media pages. Suddenly, my phone started vibrating insistently. When I checked the screen, it was a call from my mother-in-law, Patricia. "It's from Patricia," I announced. Amanda looked at the screen of my phone with great interest and suggested mischievously, "Why don't you pick up and give her a piece of your mind? She deserves it." However, I was so completely fed up and emotionally exhausted that I felt I had no words worth wasting on her. I decided to ignore it, letting it ring until it stopped. Before I knew it, my missed calls log was absolutely filled with names: Derek, Robert, Patricia, over and over again like they were taking turns. Ever since the incident was highlighted on social media and went viral, even the hospital staff seemed to be aware of my situation. They started offering even more genuine support, going above and beyond their normal duties. Several nurses told me privately that they were rooting for me and that Derek deserved everything coming to him. Whether Derek or my in-laws came to the hospital or called multiple times, the hospital staff formed a protective barrier. They didn't allow any contact with me whatsoever, following my explicit instructions. As my discharge date approached, I had one pressing worry that kept me up at night: whether Derek and my in-laws might be lurking outside the hospital entrance, waiting to ambush me. My parents reassured me constantly, saying, "Rachel, honey, you have nothing to worry about. We've taken care of everything." But the thought of my precious baby daughter potentially being in any kind of danger left me deeply anxious. What if they tried to take her? What if there was a confrontation? However, that concern was quickly and dramatically dispelled on the actual day of my discharge. As my parents were helping me gather my belongings, flowers, gift baskets, baby supplies, and we were preparing to leave through the main entrance, I suddenly heard Derek's voice shouting from somewhere in the lobby. "Rachel, Rachel, we need to talk." This was followed by the loud, shrill voices of my in-laws. Patricia was yelling something about family and responsibilities. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, several men in professional black suits suddenly surrounded me and my parents, forming a protective barrier. It was like something out of a movie. As I tried to understand what was happening, feeling disoriented, one of the men approached me gently. He had an earpiece and moved with practiced efficiency. He opened the car door to a black SUV waiting at the entrance and said calmly, "Mrs. Rachel, don't worry. We're here at Mrs. Montgomery's request to ensure your safety." Mrs. Montgomery, that was Jessica's formal name. It seemed my parents were already fully aware of this arrangement. My mom said with a reassuring smile, "Didn't I tell you there's nothing to worry about, sweetheart?" Believing her words completely now, I felt relieved and smoothly got into the comfortable leather seats of the SUV. All the while, Derek and my in-laws, overwhelmed by the presence of the professional bodyguards, couldn't come anywhere near us. They stood there in the hospital lobby, looking shocked and powerless. I caught a glimpse of Derek's face through the tinted window. He looked desperate, angry, and most of all, confused about how everything had spiraled so far out of his control. I can't find adequate words to express how grateful I am for Jessica supporting me like this, going to such extraordinary lengths. The only thing occupying my mind during that car ride was how I could possibly reciprocate Jessica's incredible kindness. My parents felt exactly the same way. My father said seriously, "We absolutely have to find a meaningful way to show our gratitude to Jessica. She's been an angel." Although my new life in Seattle began smoothly and genuinely pleasant days, continued taking care of my baby, recovering, being surrounded by my parents' love. The contacts from Derek and his parents never ceased. My phone was constantly buzzing with blocked calls. I mailed them the divorce papers through my attorney, clearly outlining the grounds and terms, but there wasn't even a hint of acceptance or acknowledgement. Derek refused to sign. One day, Patricia and Robert called our family home in Seattle. My father answered, and apparently they addressed him with the most entitled attitude imaginable. "She became a part of our family through marriage, so no matter how she's treated, she shouldn't complain. That's just how marriage works. Women need to learn to submit." When my father angrily retorted to their outrageous statement, telling them exactly what he thought of their medieval views, it seems they were taken aback by his fury. They quickly hung up. While discussing how to handle this increasingly complicated situation with my parents over dinner one evening, I decided that seeking professional legal assistance was absolutely the best course of action. I resolved to consult with an attorney who specialized in family law. Coincidentally, my father was personally acquainted with an excellent attorney in Seattle, someone who had handled complex divorce cases for years. When we explained our situation in detail during our first consultation, he graciously promised to help and seemed genuinely appalled by what I'd been through. I informed the attorney about the video circulating on social media and detailed past events systematically: the beer incident, the dinner incidents, the verbal abuse, and finally, being abandoned during labor. When the attorney reached out to Derek on our behalf, Derek was initially taken completely aback. He apparently didn't expect me to actually hire a lawyer. However, over time, Derek became increasingly defiant and aggressive. "We'll solve our marital issues ourselves. We don't need some lawyer getting involved in our private business," he argued in an inflamed tone. However, the attorney, Mr. Peterson, responded calmly and professionally. "I'm acting upon Rachel's explicit request. Any future communication should be directed solely to me. It's up to Rachel, my client, to decide whether or not she wants legal representation. That's not your decision to make." Derek was apparently at a loss for words after that. Though initially stubbornly refusing to even consider divorce, when mediation was proposed and the very real possibility of a public court case was suggested, the word court seemed to genuinely shake him. The idea of everything being public record, of testifying under oath, seemed to break through his defiance. He reluctantly agreed to the divorce, but then started making absurd demands. "I have no interest in the child and have absolutely no intention of seeing them in the future, so I don't see why I should pay child support. As for property distribution, I did nothing wrong. This is all Rachel's fault, so I shouldn't have to give her anything." He claimed this irrationally, as if he genuinely believed it. Mr. Peterson calmly explained the legal realities from a factual perspective: Oregon's laws regarding child support, property division in divorce, parental obligations. But Derek still seemed unconvinced, living in his own delusional world. "In that case, it seems we'll have to meet in court and let a judge decide," Mr. Peterson suggested matter-of-factly. Patricia and Robert, who were apparently listening nearby on speakerphone, immediately panicked at the mention of court. The idea of their dirty laundry being aired publicly, of being cross-examined, terrified them. They immediately pressured Derek to agree to everything. When I was informed of this development by Mr. Peterson, I was genuinely shocked and horrified that I had ever married such a man. How had I been so blind? What had I seen in him? I had been communicating regularly with Jessica since returning to my parents' home in Seattle, updating her on the baby and sending photos. When I told her about the recent legal developments, she said something that surprised me. You know, Rachel, how about pursuing garnishment of Derek's future wages and retirement pay? That's definitely one option you should consider. Make sure he pays for years to come. Feeling somewhat overwhelmed by Jessica's legal astuteness and strategic thinking, I mentioned it to Mr. Peterson, who thought it was an excellent idea. A while later, I was contacted by Mr. Peterson, who conveyed that Derek wished to apologize to me in person. He wanted a phone call. Wanting a satisfactory conclusion and curious about what he could possibly say, I agreed to converse over the phone under Mr. Peterson's supervision. The call would be recorded. The day of the scheduled call arrived. On that day, I was accompanied by my parents and Mr. Peterson in his office, with the call on speakerphone. From the other end of the line, I heard Derek's voice, and he immediately started talking. Finally, you answer. Look, just apologize for everything and I'll graciously forgive you. Then come back home where you belong. Let's be a couple again and forget this whole mess. I stayed silent, letting him continue. The house is an absolute mess without you. I might actually lose my job over this stupid video. Everyone at work is looking at me coldly, and it's affecting my performance. All of this is fundamentally your fault, so you need to take responsibility. He continued to bombard me with accusations, twisting everything. Without being overwhelmed this time, I calmly chose how to react, waiting for the right moment. When he finally paused and said, "See, you can't even reply properly. Truly a woman with no redeeming qualities whatsoever," I finally responded. "Just so you know, Derek, this entire conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence. Goodbye forever." Hearing this, Derek's voice revealed his absolute shock and panic. "Wait, you recorded it. That's not fair. That's illegal, right?" "Actually, Oregon is a one-party consent state. Completely legal," Mr. Peterson interjected. "I was joking around. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any of it." Derek's tone changed completely. "I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other once, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on. I'll change. I'll go to therapy." After hearing those pathetic, desperate words, I immediately hung up the phone without another word. With the recorded conversation in hand, I handed it to Mr. Peterson and asked, "Can you utilize this audio as evidence of his character?" Shaking his head in disbelief, Mr. Peterson remarked, "He truly is an incorrigible man. This actually helps your case immensely." My parents, feeling the same as me, had firmly decided to completely sever all ties with Derek and his family. Seeing his behavior filled them more with astonishment and disappointment than even anger. He was beyond redemption. At some point during this process, I realized I was slightly enjoying watching this drama unfold, seeing Derek face real consequences for the first time in his life. There was a little devilish side of me that had emerged, and honestly, it felt good. The divorce procedures with Derek concluded smoothly over the next few weeks. Both the property distribution and child support agreements went forward without any further hitch. Derek signed everything, probably under intense pressure from his parents who wanted this resolved quickly. The financial settlement was favorable. I received our house in Portland, which I promptly sold, half of all savings and investments, and substantial monthly child support payments that would continue until our daughter turned 18. The turmoil finally began to subside, and I could breathe again. Due to the information Jessica strategically shared with her husband, Robert Montgomery, the CEO of Cascade Financial Solutions, Derek was promptly and thoroughly disciplined. Robert was well known in Portland's business community for his strong family-oriented values. He genuinely believed that an employee who couldn't protect and respect his own family couldn't be trusted with the company's reputation or clients. Derek was terminated from his position within 2 weeks of the video going viral. He lost his job, couldn't make the mortgage payments on the townhouse he'd moved into, and was forced to return to his parents' home in Beaverton with his tail between his legs. His professional reputation was completely tarnished by the viral video. It had been viewed millions of times, and his face was recognizable. He struggled desperately to find stable employment in the Portland area. No reputable company wanted to hire him. He barely made ends meet with short-term part-time jobs, delivering food for DoorDash, working retail at night, doing manual labor. Nothing with benefits, nothing with security, nothing with dignity. Rumors spread about his parents, too. According to reports from Jessica's friends who lived in Beaverton, Patricia and Robert seemed to live in perpetual unease. Neighbors avoided them at the grocery store. They were dropped from their social clubs. Patricia's bridge group disbanded rather than include her. The cold societal judgment they faced, which exceeded even my expectations, made me think that, surprisingly, this social ostracization might actually be harder for them than any legal repercussions could have been. They valued appearances and status above everything. With most matters finally settled and my health steadily recovering, my parents, my baby daughter Emma, I named her after my grandmother, and I visited Jessica's beautiful home to express our gratitude properly. We brought gifts, expensive wine, gourmet gift baskets, flowers, and a heartfelt card I'd written myself. Both Jessica and Robert seemed genuinely happy to see us. They absolutely doted on Emma, with Jessica holding her and Robert making silly faces that made her smile. It made us feel warm and genuinely welcomed into their lives. After that initial visit, Jessica and my mother became surprisingly close friends. They started meeting for lunch regularly, going to yoga classes together, attending book club meetings. Similarly, Robert and my father discovered they both loved golf and craft beer. They got along remarkably well and began playing rounds together at the local country club. Our families grew genuinely close over the following months, celebrating holidays together, having barbecues, supporting each other. Furthermore, during one family dinner at the Montgomery's home, I was introduced to Jessica and Robert's son, Tyler, who had recently moved back to Portland after finishing his MBA at Stanford. He was around my age 32 to my 29. Tyler was kind, intelligent, genuinely funny, and most importantly, he treated me with respect and consideration from the very first moment. He was fascinated by Emma, asking thoughtful questions about parenting and actually listening to my answers. To everyone's surprise, including my own, our relationship began to develop in an unexpected and wonderful direction over the next year. We started with coffee dates, then dinners, then weekend trips to the Oregon coast with Emma. Tyler never rushed me, never pressured me, and always made sure Emma was included and comfortable. He was everything Derek had never been: present, supportive, emotionally available, and genuinely interested in being a partner. A few years later, when Tyler proposed to me during a weekend trip to Cannon Beach, ironically, the same place Derek had wanted to drag me to while in labor, I said yes without hesitation. The idea that I might actually become an official part of Jessica's family was something absolutely no one could have ever predicted that day I went into labor. Life truly is full of the most unexpected surprises and beautiful second chances. Now, as I sit here writing this story, Emma is 4 years old. She calls Tyler Daddy because he's the only father figure she's ever really known. We recently welcomed a baby boy, James, into our family. Tyler's parents, Jessica and Robert, are the most wonderful grandparents. My ex-husband, Derek, I heard through the grapevine that he eventually moved out of state, somewhere in Arizona, trying to escape his reputation. His parents apparently sold their house in Beaverton and moved to Florida to start over where nobody knew their story. Sometimes I think about that night he told me to go to the hospital alone. That moment of absolute cruelty that felt like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But in reality, it was the push I needed to finally break free from a toxic marriage and find real happiness. They say when one door closes, another opens. In my case, when Derek drove away and left me standing in that driveway, he actually drove himself right out of my life and made room for something infinitely better. If you enjoyed this story of karma and second chances, please like and comment below. Have you ever experienced a moment that seemed terrible but turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Share your stories, I read every comment. And don't forget to subscribe for more real life drama stories. The algorithm loves engagement, and your support helps me share more stories like Rachel's. Remember, sometimes the worst moments lead to the best chapters of our lives.